Speaker number 7 now is just getting a microphone on. Native plant expert and compulsive weeder needs to come to my house. Fiona Eadie's love of plants goes way back, creating gardens in all the flats she's lived in. She's missed a few flats in North Valley though. I've just driven past them this afternoon. There's a wee bit of TLC that needs in those gardens at the moment. Before that, she helped her mother with a large garden in Anderson's Bay. For some years, she ran a plant nursery, a native plant nursery, on the dark side in Auckland. Ooh. Hey, I'm from Auckland, I'm not complaining. She also wrote the classic book on New Zealand natives, 100 Best Native Plants for the New Zealand Gardens, and she has run to 3 editions. 19 years ago, Fiona landed what must be a dream job. She became head gardener at Larnach Castle, where she manages the castle's extensive garden, which includes plants from all over the world. Fiona loves architectural plants that provide structure in a garden all year round, and she likes to intermingle natives amongst other plants. I'm not sure about that, Fiona. She is a passionate advocate for plants of all kinds, and she's here to share art in nature. Please welcome Fiona Eadie.
If you think you're going to sit here and look at lots of pretty slides, you may need to go to the toilet now or have an appointment to go to, because I'm hoping that you might learn something. All right? You've learned lots from these people, but actually what I'm going to talk about is what riles me within people's 4-dimensional landscapes, their gardens, and what is created by our public services and the public gardens, and products that are sold that are myths out there. So I do wonder, how often do we actually think about what we're doing? How much do we ponder on it? Are we, as I say, I am the advocate for plants. Everyone's about animals. I am the plant advocate. So often of what we do is we're like sheep. We just follow what's been done before. We never question it ourselves. The most important word in the English language is why. Rose gardens, one of my biggest bugbears, for 2 reasons. The first one is they're monocultures. The most important organisms for a plant, is not the birds. It is the soil organisms, and they need a mix of plants there. All right, otherwise you get a very limited range, and soil organisms actually not only feed the plants by breaking down organic matter, but they help defend the plants from pests and diseases above ground. When you're putting on, I'm going to go back, guys, because I'm going to say the other thing here, the soil's bare. Does anyone ever put a baby to bed without a blanket, but we're quite happy to put plants to bed without a blanket? Does that exist anywhere in the world? No, only in our gardens. They need an organic mulch on top of it. And they don't need manure. They don't need manure on top, because that's what it looks like when it dries. And then it won't rehydrate. And that marvel mulch with peat. Sorry, only the bottom half of the South Island uses peat, not the rest of New Zealand. It's a non-renewable resource. Nothing fine. It needs to be coarse when you put it in there. On top. Larnach Castle, Serpentine Walk. Do you know what we did? Do you know what? Bare soil only came about because some random landscaper about 150 years ago started to change the way in which things were done. And everyone says the garden looks best with bare soil now. Sheep. We just cut down in situ. Do you know what our mulch is? The plants that were there before. Do we have to put mulch on the garden? No. The mulch is already there. But everyone says it looks messy, but you're just being a sheep. Are you thinking of your plants? No. My biggest one is bark. I have to go. Plants have bark for a reason. It's to protect themselves from fungi and bacteria. And it's to stop water getting out. Fungi and bacteria are there to break down organic matter. As far as they're concerned, it's dry wheat bix. They're not going to touch it. And if you look underneath that, there was weed mat. Weed mat. Do you realise that water and air get in? Why does weed mat smell like, what's the soil smell like, rotten eggs when you lift it? It's because it's anaerobic. No air gets in there. Good way to kill your soil, guys. Kill your soil organism, kill your plants. Shouldn't be sold. I've got one function for it. I'll show you at the end. Guys, chainsaws. All right. I've got a brother-in-law, and he's a lawyer. He likes his chainsaw, and I said to him, you need to get an arborist. And he said, no, I can do it. And I said, well, would you expect an arborist to be a lawyer? No, he goes, of course not. And I said, why do you as a lawyer expect to be an arborist? The thing is, they train for 3 years. A study I saw said that this was in the 1990s, the value of a well-pruned, mature tree would increase the value of the house by $15,000. Now, one like that, probably going to drop it just the same. Use the arborists, they train to do that. I'm now going to talk about clay breaker. It is sold. They use a word like flocculation. It sounds quite special, flocculation. Does anyone know what it means? No, but it sounds good, so people use it. The only way you can get a good soil is with organic matter. Only way, there's nothing else. Lime is good. That's all clay breaker is just lime. Gypsum. But it's not going to do anything. You need to use the old agricultural lime in the corner or gypsum. And lots of organic matter. That's the only way you will build a good soil. You should never use dolomite because it's got magnesium and it just makes your clay even more compact. Another one here. Root booster. Root booster has just got superphosphate. Why don't they just call it superphosphate? No, because you won't buy it if it was superphosphate, but it's a root booster. There's no way that one single product is going to make your roots grow. Organic matter, good soil organisms, good air in your soil, and your plant will grow. And guess what? An American scientist, soil scientist, called Linda Pullman, reckoned that the only reason that fertilizer companies decided that phosphate was good for your soils was because they didn't know what it did. Now, lawns. Guess what a good lawn seed was in the 1950s? Had the highest proportion of clover in it. What do we all try and kill in our lawns? Clover. It's a fashion. Everything's a fashion, guys. Think about it from diversity. Larnach Castle used to be all grass when I started, but now we have what I call it biodiverse lawn. All right? And finally, guys, I am going to say, whatever you do, do it from the plant's perspective. Do not do it just because it's a fashion or a fad. A healthy plant needs a healthy soil, and a healthy soil needs a good organic covering. And finally, I'll show you my thing for weed mat. I've come up with it because it keeps some moisture off, so you can have a wee poncho. And I thought, well, possibly you've got some pots lying around, and you can actually have something that you could work in the garden. I haven't tried this very well. You could work in the garden in moderate rain and not get wet. So if you've got some weed mat lying around, you've